it was on HBO, Cinemax, whatever, and I would just veg out, man. I loved the competitiveness of it. I loved going to my room and pretending to be in a tournament with myself, doing kicks. I'm sure I looked incredible. And, I mean, movies like this made me want to do Taekwondo, which I did for a while. Did you know that, Marcus? Did you know?
No, you took actual classes and stuff?
I took actual classes of Taekwondo. And I took it at a place that sits by the Columbus, Georgia, which is where I grew up. I took it next to the Columbus Airport, which was also next to the Walmart Supercenter, which weren't supercenters at the time, just a big Walmart.
Right.
The Home Depot, and it's set under the highway bridge, or right by the highway bridge. This place is now a tattoo parlor. But what I remember most is that if you look to the side of our building, of the Taekwondo building, you would see the sensei, which I forgot his name, doing like a front kick in this huge cardboard cutter that kind of loomed over the highway.
Yeah. And
I remember going to this place and taking Taekwondo. I didn't take long. I got to be honest. I quit. I didn't like how strict he was, and I didn't have the parents to push me through to see it through.
Sure.
I mean, he was pretty legit. We're talking like a ruler on the knuckles type thing, like old school, like doing knuckle push-ups and things like that. And a lot like what they do in this movie. You know, he wasn't walking around slapping us in the back with a bow staff, but
right.
He would poke at us and make sure our cores were tight and make sure our stances were low enough and all this stuff. And as an 8 or 9 year old, I wasn't into it.
No. So you didn't even pass. You just stayed at a white belt. Is that it goes by belts?
Yep. I just did white belt and I quit. And then I did ninjutsu. I also did ninjutsu, which this place is now a hair salon, but at the time it was a ninjutsu studio. And we had we did stars in ninjutsu through white and brown and all that stuff. We would do stars, and 5 stars equal to new belt ranking. And I guess especially through the white belt, you could move up as quick as you wanted to. Just as it's a matter of doing the work, learning the forms, learning the language and stuff like that. Because to earn your first star, you had to say like a series of commands and meditations, basically in Japanese. And
how old were you when you were doing the ninjutsu?
I must have been 11 at this point.
Okay.
I took some time off after my Taekwondo. You know.
Yeah. So all of this originated from Best of the Best, or?
Well, it's certainly a culmination. I think Taekwondo specifically originated from Best of the Best.
Right.
Because they reference it so much, and I thought just what Philip Reed was doing, I was like, well, if I could do that, Jesus. So that, I believe my Taekwondo interest raised specifically from this movie. My ninjutsu was just from like, oh, that sounds cool, I want to learn more about that. And we would to make sure we were doing our front rolls correctly, we would do them on concrete.
Nice.
Yeah, so we wouldn't get hurt. And while I was in ninjutsu, to keep this story going, when I was in ninjutsu, you know, the teacher was very like, you know, kind of hippie-ish and stuff like that. He was like, you know, being ninjutsu, being a ninja is not just about being a fighter or a lethal person. You have to be in touch with nature. So he organized a retreat basically to his land out in like some rural area of Georgia. He has all this land, and it was basically like a survivalist weekend with ways to like survive in the wilderness and doing like lectures on nature and meditation and things like that. Now, keep in mind, I'm like 11 or 12.
Yeah. And
nothing sounded cooler to me, especially when this other younger kid of about my age, who was a couple belts higher than me, wanted to go too. And I was like, well, hell, it must be great. And come crunch time, everyone's paid for the retreat, and we're sleeping outside, we're doing all this stuff, and whatever his name was, backed out. So it was just me and 12 40-plus-year-old men.
Oh, no.
And he would do these campfire lectures, man, and I didn't know what taking notes were, but he was like, if you want to take notes, you can. because he had requested you bring a pencil and paper and things like that.
Right.
And I didn't know, like, taking notes were just like, oh, this is interesting and things like that. I was trying to write down verbatim what he was saying.
Adam and his big chief, just number 2 pencil, just
oh my gosh, dude! I was so stressed out trying to keep up with everything he was saying, and I just saw all these other grown men just being like nodding their head and writing down little notes, and I was like, how are they doing this so fast? And I just had pages and pages of like just him being like, welcome everyone to this retreat. I'm like writing that down. This was also around the time that Dr. Giggles came out, if you remember that movie.
Oh, I love Dr. Giggles, yeah.
And there's a scene in the trailer where you sort of get a night view of the woods in which his house is in.
Right.
And I thought the woods looked like that, so I didn't sleep in my tent. I slept amongst the group by the fire because I was so scared to sleep in my tent. But the next morning...
so the guys were sleeping by the fire? And
yeah, everyone was sort of sitting around the fire, talking, chatting, and here I am, like a 10-year-old, just sitting there with them, and I fell asleep by the fire, and I just stayed there all night. And then he woke us up early to show us how to measure rainfall and dew precipitation without any type of electronics.
Okay.
And,
but did the older guys treat you like one of them too? They didn't bust your balls or anything?
No,
like
they were
that?
very kind. I don't remember anything like that. But one of the things we did, we would go on these hikes, and he was like, we're going to go on these hikes. And on these hikes, I have a survival outpost hidden. And if you find it, you'll get, I don't know what the prize was. And we went through the entire weekend without ever finding his survival outpost. And the final day, he showed it to us. And it was like this 8-foot deep hole by 8 feet wide. And you could go down in there, and the entrance was covered. And I thought it was the coolest shit in the world. Tried to build one in my own backyard. Mom got mad. She was like,
why are you digging in our fucking backyard?
why are you digging this enormous hole, Adam? What's worse is, like, as a kid, I probably didn't even finish the hole.
Oh, no.
I was just like, this is hard work.
Yeah, you didn't finish white belt. You're not finishing that.
No, I'm not digging an 8x8 hole as a 12-year-old. No. So that's, Best of the Best, I guess, as I speak to these long stories, was a pretty similar, like, important film for me. And really influenced a couple years of my life.
That's very fun.
How about you, Marcus?
I think I'm the same as you. Same exact stories. No, I'm just kidding. But I think, like, it wasn't... Didn't go see it in the theaters. I believe I saw this first probably when I was around... I think probably 12 or 13, because it pretty much coincided... What I really recall, and it's a camp story as well, but it's a Christian camp. Mm-hmm. And I remember, like you said, it was seeing this on TV, HBO. It was on one of those channels, and it was playing a lot. And I remember loving it too, and just immediately going outside, wanting to do stuff and kick stuff, and just practice the art as best as I could, and the discipline by myself.
Yep.
And
that's right.
Yeah. And because no other teacher was better than me by myself in my backyard.
Yeah.
And,
well, you also all you had to go off was your imagination of how badass you look. So what else was there?
Right. Me, a Capri Sun, and that was and I was good to go.
You didn't need an adult to be like, that's not how you kick, Marcus.
No. Right? I knew how to kick. Yeah. I knew I was
I've seen these movies.
But yeah, I remember seeing this movie, and then I go to this Christian camp, and it was somewhere in Texas, but it was like a wide open space on this big acreage of land, and there were, youth group. It was like youth groups from all around Texas or something like that. But the only reason I went to this was because of a girl. And so there's two things that kind of happened here. One, during this time, like, my thought was to isolate this girl, get her in a one-on-one situation, and show her my karate moves without show her my moves without the attention of other ongoing youth groups who would...
You just want to get her alone in the woods, and she's like, oh, he's going to try to kiss me, and you're like...
Right, no.
Stand right here.
Yeah.
And give me some space, because I want to woo you.
So when I first got there, my first question, because we were staying in these little cabins, and my first question to, like, one of the guys who was watching the cabin, not even one of the youth group pastors, he was just like a hands guy there, who did all the maintenance and stuff too, but just one of them. But I asked him, like, is there any spare wood around here anywhere? Because I wanted to do some breaking wood. I wanted to break some wood for her.
like, having been a camp counselor, if a kid came up to me and was like, "Hey, you got any spare wood around here?" What do you think that kid is doing? Did you express to him that you wanted to show people your breaking ability?
No, there was no context. I just wanted to get to the point and get that wood. That's all I wanted.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah.
You got any 1x6 around here?
Yeah.
I could.
Well, long story short, there was no wood. I never got her in a kind of one-on-one setting to where I could show her my skills. But one night we were watching. I think it was actually probably like a Kurt Cameron movie or something like that. It was something to that extent.
Yeah.
I don't know if he was doing that at that time, but it was to that extent. It was a very religious movie. But we were watching this, and then afterwards there was like a sermon, like a youth sermon by a
Wait,
youth...
before you continue, do you think
Sure.
it was the movie that Kurt Cameron did? Was it the one about the Revelation?
The Rapture?
Yeah. It's called... it was a popular series of books.
Yeah, I can't... it's something like Gone or something. Or,
yeah. The rapture happens, and Mike Seaver's left there.
Mike Seaver's left.
And
him and Boner are just in the rapture.
Yes, and they have they have so many books.
Mm-hmm.
Like anyway, keep
Left
going.
Behind.
The Left Behind series.
Left
yes,
Behind.
Marcus.
That's it.
Yeah.
But after this movie, there was a sermon where a kid was giving the sermon too, and all these kids. So this church was a Church of Christ, which meant not a deep South, but a Texas South Church of Christ, which meant that these kids and people from this church and denomination spoke in tongues.
Yes.
And so I had never done that before. But this girl that I liked a lot got caught up in the sermon, started speaking in tongues, so I think, well, I got to start doing this too.
Of course.
So I just start doing anything, just start talking in tongues in a fake way, of course.
Oh, of course.
And she like starts holding my hand, and I'm like, okay, this is doing it. This is getting it. Yeah, and then we're going, and then finally it's over. And I just keep doing it because I'm thinking, okay, I got her now. And it's kind of like the rule of three in comedy. I didn't stop, though. I just kept it going. I just kept pushing the lever as far as I could. And I end up like acting like I'm so in the spirit and tripping over stuff and everything, too. That finally my youth group pastor grabs me and he's like, "Are you faking this?" And I told him, and I wasn't going to lie to him, and I just like, yeah, I was faking. He's like, "Why are you doing this? Why are you making a mockery of the Lord?" And I told him, "For Sarah, because I like her." And he was like, "Why are you here, Mark?" And that's when I told him, "For Sarah." And I just kind of like spilled the bean, and I was very upfront. He's probably thinking I'm a little shit, but I was just telling him I'm not here for the Lord or anything. I was just here for Sarah the whole time. And so he wouldn't let me take part in any religious sermons, any group activities the rest of the time.
He denied you praise?
He denied me access to the Lord, Adam. And
Holy cow!
I was stuck in the cabin, but you know what? Sarah loved my bad boy attitude so much that at the end, it was just like, the movie Milk Money, kind of like, well, not like getting a prostitute, but what am I thinking? Just like a girl at the end of camp, she gave me a kiss before we all left.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, and then we talked because she went to another school in Odessa. But we would talk sometimes, or I'd call her. Nothing really had transpired from it, unfortunately. But hey, I got what I needed out of it. I got that kiss.
Holy cow! And you never do your martial arts?
No. Never
I can't tell you what I would give to watch a 12-year-old Marcus pretend to go crazy with the spirit and trip and fall. Just really going hard.
Yeah. It was like I was Chris Farley before there was Chris Farley.
That is incredible. What a story, Marcus. Damn, this whole podcast has been worth it just to hear that. I had never heard that. Not only did the story start with you like, well, I like this girl. Probably the best thing I could do is lure her in the woods to show her my martial arts.
Right. Isn't that,
and that
your
you
first
quickly
thought?
Yeah, you quickly realized like that's not the way to go.
No.
And then you saw that she was speaking in tongues, and you were like, you know what? This is it. I'm going all out.
I found my in. Yeah, that was it.
Now, you could have just said that the Lord was telling you to do martial arts and just start kicking in front of her.
Right, I could have, yeah.
Excuse me. That